Mark McMorris will be going for a second podium appearance as the Big Air Finals get underway tonight in Pyeongchang. Fans back home will be glued to their screens for the big event, but Mark's parents, Don and Cindy, will get to see it unfold in person. Don McMorris joins me now from South Korea. Thank you so much for joining me today, Don. How does it feel to watch your son go for a second medal in this Winter Olympics?
Well, you know, everybody says, oh, you must really enjoy it, but quite frankly, it's quite nerve-wracking. He went through the qualification a couple days ago, and that's the most nerve-wracking time, the most tense, because, of course, you want to see him get to the final where he can show his stuff. He made it through quite well. He landed both his tricks, so that was good. On to the final. It's going to be a very interesting final. Some people that should have made it in didn't. They didn't make it through. There's some new names in there, so it'll be a very interesting final.
And I mean, you mentioned the qualifiers. It seemed like that was the finals because the performance caliber was just so high. So what was going through your mind when he landed that second run that really solidified his spot in these finals?
Yeah, you know, it goes in two heats. So the first heat had gone, and, you know, a few of the names went through. The tricks were kind of what a person expected. But when the second heat hit, all the riders just seemed to really step up their game and trying tricks that they'd never tried before, some of them landing them. So it really, the caliber really increased. You know, Mark's first run, if that had been in the first heat, would have been in the top two, and he would have been fine. But in this heat, was fourth and sliding down, you know, only top six move on. So he had to try something even tougher on his second run, and fortunately landed it. Was placed up in third place where he remained and moved on. So yeah, pretty intense hour and a half, 2 hours.
I imagine so. Mark's comeback story this year, obviously, very extraordinary. Looking back at last March, give us a sense of what was going through your mind when Mark was saying that he wanted to compete in these Olympics.
Well, you know, when you go through something like that, I guess you take it one day at a time. The Olympics seemed like a long, far-off dream. And not that you'd put it out of your mind completely, but you want the next day to be better than the day before. And when he was clinging to life at the start, you know, that's a long road to recover from. But each day did get better. He was fortunate that it was mainly just bone or structural damage. You know, I mean, the spleen and the lung were healing, and the bones just needed to heal. He's got a great determination and a great team behind him. And as a result, 10.5 months later, we're here cheering him on.
Here cheering him on, and I mean, both Olympics he's competed in have followed injuries, the broken rib before Sochi, and of course these injuries last spring. And he not only competes, but he's making it to the podium. So as a father, how proud does that make you?
Yeah, of course, very proud. You know, I mean, but you got to be proud. Any of these athletes that make it to the Olympics, that's a huge accomplishment. When you think of the amount of people that participate in these different sports that never get to this level, just competing is pretty special. Making it to a final is even better. And if you podium, that's certainly icing on the cake. And Mark has been fortunate. He's pushed the sport really in a lot of ways, and you know, I just hope he's rewarded with another podium, and if not, he's done us proud.
You've not one but two sons who are at the Olympics in different fashions. Craig has been stealing the show, calling the snowboarding events. I think that holy kittens is my favorite phrase that I've heard, and one that I might have to use down the road. How's Craig been doing with his role at the Olympic Games?
It's been good. You know, we've been here for 16 days, and we don't see a lot of them. And maybe every 2 or 3 days we might get half an hour with them, an hour, but that would be max. Mark is busy in his own element, getting ready for competition, but Craig has probably been the busiest person here, not only doing color for the snowboarding events, but also hosting the overnight show with Kelly Vanderbeek, as well as doing some work for Visa on pushing limits. So he not only calls in the morning, for example, yesterday the women's final, hosts his show in the late afternoon, evening, and then goes with the crew and does some filming for Pushing the Limits later on that night. So we don't get a lot of time with him. He's been very busy, but all reports, we don't get to see much of it here, but all reports from home is that he's doing a pretty good job.
We've heard a lot that he's doing a great job. As a parent, could you have ever imagined that all of those trips to the mountains when Craig and Mark were younger could have led them both to this world stage?
Never in a million years. You know, it really was their passion, and it still is. You know, they're just lucky enough to be able to do their passion in front of kind of the world, you know. Not that broadcasting necessarily was Craig's passion, but the snowboarding world is. And he's still very active. When he's not broadcasting, he's filming a lot. And so that's really his passion that's led him to the broadcasting. And of course, Mark, the competition side of the snowboarding world. So no, it was never what we envisioned, but I think it's a good thing that we don't know what's in the future. You just follow your passions, and that should be reward enough. If you get to kind of the levels that the boys are at, that's just a real bonus time.
Well, Olympics wrap up this weekend. What's next for your boys?
Oh, I know for Craig it's going to be rest. He needs a break. And for Mark, I think it will be in more competitions. The U.S. Open is in a week and a half. That's a big one for the snowboard world. There's another competition over in Norway he may go to. But what he's been talking about more than anything else is getting into the backcountry and doing some filming with his brother, where Craig spends a lot of time. So I think that will be kind of their next projects, kind of for the spring back at home in North America, will be more riding and pursuing their passion, which is riding with friends, not competition. It's riding with friends.
Well, lots to look forward to in the future, but right now, concentrating on the Big Air final. Thank you so much, Don, for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good luck.
Don McMorris is in South Korea and will be cheering on his son Mark at the Big Air finals. The action happens tonight at 7 o'clock right here on CBC.